It was a rainy day in August of 1969. Thousands of people were heading to a new music festival called Woodstock. And one of them, a 19-year-old kid from Boston, excited to see his favorite band, Creedence Clearwater Revival. I was leaving Boston and driving an old Mercedes, just like this one, up to Woodstock, New York. Now, you might think, why would a 19-year-old kid have a Mercedes-Benz? Well, Mercedes-Benz did not have the reputation back then that it has now. I loved it. I drove that thing all over the place. Drove it almost all the way to Woodstock. More on that later. I never made it to CCR back then, but I do get to see their front man today. John, how are you?
Good, Jay. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you, sir.
Is that the guitar?
Oh, this is the guitar that was at Woodstock. Yes, indeed.
John Fogerty is a solo artist now, but back in the day, he was the lead singer, guitarist, and songwriter for Creedence Clearwater Revival. John made the Rolling Stones' top 100 greatest songwriters, top 100 greatest singers. But more importantly, he's one of my favorite musicians. I always like your sound because it's uniquely American. You know, I mean, I like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and all of that. But your sound just struck home, Fortunate Son, all those kinds of songs. Who'll Stop the Rain? Now that, I always thought that was written after Woodstock, during Woodstock, about Woodstock.
It was after Woodstock, and it was more or less about Woodstock.
Right. But the rain was sort of a metaphor, right, for just...
Yeah, the baloney that was coming
baloney,
down
yeah.
on high.
Baloney sounds better than BS. Yeah, all right, baloney.
Well,
So tell me about Woodstock. You guys were headlining there, right?
yeah, we were supposed to headline on Saturday night. It's all being run by a bunch of hippies. So it got later and later, and finally, about midnight, the Grateful Dead went on. We found out 50 years later, they divulged that the whole band took LSD as they walk on stage at Woodstock. And so apparently they were up there just sort of wandering. Finally, they're done, and they come running out to play, and I looked down, and everybody was naked.
Right.
And everybody was asleep and covered with mud.
Right.
So I go up to the mic, I'm frustrated. And we're playing our hearts out up here for you. We just want you to have a good time. Way out there somewhere. Some guy's flicking his lighter, and I hear him say, "Don't worry about it, John. We're with you." I actually played the whole rest of my Woodstock show for that guy.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I got something you might like, you know. In July of '69, I went to a store called Kapp's in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and I bought some Woodstock clothes, which I still have. Stay right there. You got to see the jacket I bought. What do you think? I tried to put it on, but as you can see, I was a little smaller then. I can kind of get one arm in. Now I'm stuck. I can't get it off. But anyway, this was $400 in 1969.
Wow. You were going to Woodstock.
I was gone. Well, you know, I got within 60 miles. The traffic was terrible. I was with my buddy, and we went to a strip club in Times Square, and then we drove back to Boston. That's all we did. So we never actually made it.
At the time, I thought of it as kind of a nuisance.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk about your van. You want to show me that? We'll take a ride.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's do
Sounds
it.
good.
Okay.
Well, far out.
Some damn hippie following me, it looks like. Tell us about the van. What's the history?
A few years ago, we started doing a show that we call My 50-Year Trip, you know, kind of reflective of having been at Woodstock. And of course, I think the #1 symbol for a hippie would be having a hippie bus.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, it looks so period. It's hilarious.
Wow, I've made my first transition to low gear. That was awesome.
What year is that bus?
68.
68, yeah. So that'd be about 36, 40 horsepower.
I think I could probably, you know, generate about that myself, just getting behind it and pushing.
I know, it's true. The Believe it or not, this VW Wagon isn't that fuel efficient. Oh, sure, it runs on love, rainbows, and tie-dye, but it still only gets an average of 20 miles per gallon. That's only 2 miles per gallon more than a Hummer H3, while a Prius gets 58 miles per gallon. That makes the Prius like 109% groovier, man. Well, in numbers anyway. Not in spirit, of course.
I remember reading there was a car that you used to sit in and play. I don't know if you actually recorded in it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, when I was very young, it was my mom's car. I was thinking about this the other day. That's the first time I heard Susie Q was in that car. Old Buick, and there was no padding on the dashboard, so you could drum on that dashboard, just go crazy. But I'd go out in front of the house on the street there where the car was parked and listen to the radio.
That's funny. You know, that old Buick, I had a 55. It was one of my first cars, and that was one of my first jokes. There was no padding on the dashboard. When you had an accident, if you hit your head, they just hose it off and sell it to somebody else. That was the gag.
Yeah, it was all metal. I mean, that dashboard was built like a tank, but it had quite a sound. But it's interesting that even though I couldn't drive yet, I was probably 12, 13 years old, but I preferred to go out and sit in her car and listen to the radio. Lord knows I must have run the battery down a bunch of times, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's funny.
Guy behind me thinks he fell into a time warp.
We'll let this guy go ahead of us.
I don't know if I got a turn signal on this thing. Well, if he didn't smile at the hippie bus, he's a conservative.
Yeah. Well, John, I'm going to take off because your car is so damn slow, it'll take me 6 hours, so you're on your own.
Peace, brother.
Yeah. Thanks, pal.